It is 4:30. I'm calling the meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, and notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. If there are no objections to adopting the agenda, July 14th, 2021 special meeting, I'll move adoption. Seeing no objections, agenda is adopted. Moving on to section 3, business license appeal hearing. This is a hearing for Pipe Dream 656 Neilson Place. And a statement from the chair. Pursuant to section 60 parentheses 5 of the Community Charter and section 22 of the District of Tofino Meeting Procedure Bylaw number 1229, 2016, this special meeting of the District of Tofino Council is held for the purpose of conducting a business license appeal hearing. The business license appeal hearing is open to the public to observe. However, members of the public are not given the opportunity to express themselves or address council during the hearing. Council will hear a report and presentation from district staff, in this case, the Manager of Protective Services and Business License Inspector, as well as the appellants regarding the refusal of a short-term rental business license for the company Pipe Dreams. Council is requested to maintain an open mind and refrain from prejudging the outcome until all hearing representations and deliberations have completed. Once complete, council will be asked to render a decision from the options presented, and decisions of council are final. And just a moment here. Now we're going to move into deliberation by council. And before we jump right into deliberation by council, I would like to invite Ms. Best to explain to council and the appellants this particular process.
Thank you, Mayor Law. For those of you who are new to this process, and just a reminder, this is a business license appeal hearing. So today we are going to be hearing from a staff, and in this case, the Manager of Protective Services and the Business License Inspector, regarding the report that you received in the agenda package. After the presentation from staff, you are available to ask questions, clarifying questions on the information provided. It is not a time for discussion. It is a time to clarify the information provided to you. Once the presentation of staff and questions have concluded, we will then invite the appellant, Ms. Christy Wolf, who is the business owner representing Pipe Dreams, to represent her her request to council. And there also is the submission to council that they've included in this package as well that you've all received. Council then again may ask clarifying questions. And once those clarifying questions are then answered by the appellant, we will then move to deliberation by council, in which each council member we will ask to do a roll call where you state whether you are in support of the decision of the business license inspector to refuse a business license, or if you were opposed of the decision of the business license inspector. Then each council member have an opportunity to say the reasoning why. And once that is done and the roll call is done, we will ask for council to render a decision by resolution. The recommendations are provided in the staff report. And once the recommendation is voted on, the decision is made and it is final. Is there any questions before you begin? I can answer for you.
I have no, sorry, did you have your hand up there, Councillor Thick? No, okay, I'm just pulling up information, but please go ahead, Chief Baker.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I will try and keep this as brief as possible. The information in my presentation you will recognize from the report, but I did want to include it in this format today as we're all together, so we can take a look at it at the same time. I'll just take a moment and share my screen. Okay, so I believe we're all seeing the cover page for Pipe Dreams license appeal. Wonderful. So for this presentation, we will go through the purpose, background, some brief discussion, a file history, and then move on to our conclusion. And I should mention as well too, I do have Damon Johnson, our business license inspector, is with us here today. So if we have any specific questions for Damon himself or some clarification, he will be available to us as well once we finish the presentation. So the purpose today is to present for Council's consideration information obtained by the District of Tofino staff during the business license application process, outline the application and review process, and present details supporting the refusal of the license. For some background, the legislative authority to refuse or cancel business licenses and hearing procedures under Section 15, Part 1 of the Community Charter, a council may provide for a system of licenses, including by doing one or more of the following: by establishing terms and conditions of, or terms and conditions that must be met for obtaining, continuing to hold, or renew a license, or providing that such terms and conditions may be imposed, the nature of the terms and conditions, and who may impose them, and for providing a reconsideration or appeals of decisions made with respect to the granting, refusal, suspension, or cancellation of licenses. Under Section 60 of the Community Charter, Council may refuse a business license for a reasonable cause, and Section 60 Part 3 further stipulates that before a business license can be canceled or refused, the license holder must be given notice of their proposed action and an opportunity to be heard. Some examples of what may constitute reasonable cause for refusal or cancel of a business license include where Council considers that the business does not comply with a bylaw or term of its license, is complicit in breaches of laws or regulations in relation to the business, or poor management giving rise to pressing community concerns. The process for consideration of a license refusal, in accordance with the Community Charter requirements and the principles of natural justice, this staff report outlines the basis for the license inspector's refusal of Pipe Dreams business license, and the business license inspector's recommendation that Council uphold the refusal and refuse to issue Pipe Dreams a business license until the premises is found to be in compliance with Section 4.3.2 Part J 3 of the zoning bylaw. Our Corporate Services Department for the District of Tofino provided notice of the hearing to both Jason and Christy Wolf, owners of Pipe Dreams, on June 30th, 2021, and a copy of that report has been forwarded, or a copy of this report has been forwarded. Pipe Dreams has been given the opportunity to respond to this report and present contrary evidence, which was also included in the package. And Ms. Best from Corporate Services has included that as Schedule A, or the letter from Ms. Best was included as Schedule A. So Council must then objectively weigh the evidence presented by the district staff and evidence presented by Pipe Dreams and determine whether there is reasonable cause to refuse the license. In being provided an opportunity to be heard by Council, Pipe Dreams may submit written materials, as we have seen, in advance of the hearing, and address Council directly at the time of the hearing, which I believe we're going to have that opportunity today. In rendering a decision, Council has the discretion to issue the license, uphold the refusal of the license, issue the license subject to conditions, or adjourn the proceedings. Our District of Tofino Business License Regulation Bylaw 858 specify that no person shall operate a short-term rental or any other form of room rental for temporary accommodation without a valid business license, and that's Section 3A. Our zoning bylaw 770 defines a sleeping unit means a habitable room equipped for and intended for sleeping in which there are no kitchen or cooking facilities. Section 4.3.2 J3, a short-term rental may not use, or short-term rental use may not be located within any dwelling unit that has more than 3 sleeping units or bedrooms in total. So for discussion today, this section will provide a summary of the business license application process, a summary of the rationale for the refusal of the business license for Pipe Dreams located at 656 Neilson Place, and a file history from 2020-21, the details and chronology of the events leading to the business license refusal and this appeal process. So a summary of the process. The following procedure for short-term vacation rental business license application has been followed. It starts with the applicants submit a business license application for review. Then the applicants pay the license application fee of $50. The District of Tofino Business License Inspector then conducts a review of that license application to determine compliance with district bylaws and the zoning. The Business License Inspector will request clarification or additional documentation that is applicable to the license being applied for. And if applicable, an on-site inspection is conducted to verify the details of the application. If non-compliant, the business license inspector identifies steps to resolve and will not issue the business license until compliance is confirmed. If it is in compliance, the license is granted pending the payment of the annual licensing fee. So the rationale for the refusal of this license. Upon review of the business license, the license inspector was unable to support the approval of the license for Pipe Dreams short-term rental for the following reason. The application at the time was for a 3-bedroom short-term rental within dwelling unit with 5 bedrooms and does not meet the District of Tofino zoning requirement 4.3.2J, the regulations for short-term rental use, that states a short-term rental use may not be located within any dwelling unit that has more than 3 sleeping units or bedrooms in total. So just to give the history of events here. So on June 25th, 2020, the first correspondence between the applicant and the building inspector. The building inspector suggests in that letter, which was included in your package, that the owners review the zoning bylaw for the maximum number of rooms allowed for a short-term rental. On June 26th, there was a follow-up correspondence between the building inspector and the builder of the unit, where the building inspector quotes the zoning bylaw 432J3 regarding the maximum number of rooms to the builder and states he is trying to help the owners out in case they ever wish to short-term rental the property. On July 6th of 2020, building plans for 656 Neilson Place were submitted, and the plans include a 5-bedroom principal dwelling and a 1-bedroom secondary suite. On April 22nd, 2021, the occupancy permit was issued for 656, which was issued for a 5-bedroom principal dwelling with a 1-bedroom secondary suite. On May 3rd, 21, the business license application form was submitted to the district for review. On May 3rd, the information sheet was also submitted for review. And on May 10th, the business license denial email was sent by the business license inspector. So the conclusion, in rendering a decision of the business license for Pipe Dreams, again, council has the discretion to issue a 2021 business license, uphold the refusal of the 2021 business license, issue the license subject to conditions, or adjourn the proceedings, and staff is recommending option number 2. And I will stop sharing my screen at this point, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to do my best to answer any of those, or have our business license inspector step in for that as well.
Thank you, Chief Baker. I'm going to open it up to council now for questions, and just to reiterate Ms. Best's comments, these are for clarification and not the time for comments, and also to point out that the this appeal hearing is for this particular case only. So just to keep that in mind, that we're focusing on the specifics of this particular case. Questions from council? We have Councillor Steer, then Councillor Challenger, then Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Chief Baker. I have just one question regarding the chain of correspondence. In the initial correspondence between the building inspector and the applicant, and then subsequent to that, there was a clarification or the sending of the bylaw, which clearly indicated what the requirements of an STR were. And then it was requested or suggested that a conversation with Peter and Damon to clarify anything. Do you know if there was correspondence between the applicant for that business license and or Peter and or Damien?
I'm going to offer this one up to Damon Johnson, the business license inspector, so that he can speak to any particular details of follow-up conversations.
Yeah, for this, I don't have memory of the phone call, but with discussion with Christy, we did talk, and Peter as well. There's no emails or anything back and forth for what was said during those conversations, though, to reflect on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I believe, thank you, Councillor Steer. I believe we have, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Challenger and then Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, and thank you, Chief Baker. I just have two questions. One is, in your report, there's mention of an on-site inspection possibly being done if that was considered necessary. And I wondered if that was done or considered necessary in this situation. And then the second, what would the applicant need to do to come into compliance with the bylaw?
Yeah, so thank you for those questions. There was not an on-site inspection conducted. When we go through the process, the typical process is to do that initial screening. If it doesn't meet the criteria, then at that point we get back to the applicants with the notification. And I believe they were in contact with the building inspector and the business license inspector to see what the options may be. No on-site inspection at that time if it doesn't comply with the zoning or the particular bylaws. With the fact that we have 800 business licenses under review, it's important that we do the screening, we communicate back, and then we continue. Otherwise, if we're visiting ones that we know right away are not in compliance, it slows us down from getting to some of the other ones as well too. There was a number of suggestions that were offered to the applicant as to ways that it may be workable, as simple as flipping it and having a one-bedroom short-term rental unit and using the remainder of the house as long-term rental. That was one option. There were some other options that involved renovations of the unit so that it was completely separated units, but those were more conversations that would have been held with the building inspector, but there was some options that were laid out.
Thanks.
Councillor Anderson.
I think my question's kind of been answered, but the determination that it was a 5-bedroom house then was based on the plans and not on a site inspection, I guess.
That's correct. Part of the checklist that the business license inspector does go through is a review of the occupancy permit, which clearly stated 5-bedroom dwelling with an additional 1-bedroom dwelling. And so that's where that stops at that point. The on-site inspection would just confirm that. So,
thank you.
Councillor McMaster, Councillor Thick, do you have any questions? No, my questions have been answered. Thank you, Chief Baker.
you're welcome.
And I believe now we have the appellants to present their case.
Thank you, Mayor Law. I'm just going to, Ms. Wolf, I'm just going to promote you to a panelist so you may speak. And can you hear us? Yes. And we can hear you. Okay, great, thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to see me today. Can you see me and hear me okay?
Unfortunately, we don't see you, but
We can, yeah,
we
sorry,
can hear you.
Ms. Wolf, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Okay.
If you would like us to see you, I'll give you 30 seconds here to see if we can get your camera going.
Here we go.
There we go. Great, we can see you now. Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. I just wanted to start by thanking everyone for their time. I know how busy you all are, and I really appreciate everything that the district staff has done for us, and your time, councillors, to be here with me today to address this. I don't want to go through my full slide because I feel like you've hopefully read all that information and it's kind of lengthy. Basically, Jason and I are born and bred in Port Alberni. We spend lots of time out on the coast, and this has kind of been a dream of ours. So when we found the vacant lot, we decided it was a good fit and we went for it. There was lots of discussion in the beginning with our builder, with Damon and Peter around what we could do. Obviously, as just citizens, it's a little confusing, but we muddled through it and we thought we had a very concise plan. What we took from those conversations was that the short-term rental could only have access to 3 bedrooms, and we needed to have a long-term tenant in there. So that was really our focus. So when we designed the home, we were trying to design kind of the biggest home we could afford in our budget so that there was room to grow in the future. And keeping in mind that we wanted to have just 3 bedrooms dedicated to the short-term rental. So when you look at the floor plans, we do have 2 bedrooms downstairs, but they are behind locked doors, so like keyed locked doors. And at the moment, they're just for our private use. So they're intended for us personally to have a spot to go with our girls. We build custom bunk beds in there for them, and it's just like a little hideout for our family when we're in town. That way we can keep an eye on what's happening in the rental, but we can also use it for work stays. So we come down on pro days when the kids are off and Jason works in town. We've also used it already for road closures when the guys are working in Tofino and the roads closed, they can't get through. So it's just kind of, it's solely personal use for us. So I just wanted to make that clear. Yeah, I don't have too much to say unless you guys have questions for me. I really just, we didn't anticipate that these 2 bedrooms that are totally separate and locked off were going to be an issue. We obviously we're in the plumbing business, so we're the last ones into homes often, and we do a lot of new homes in Tofino and Nucleate, and there are plenty of these situations where there are additional rooms, maybe they're tagged as an office on the plans or a den or something. We honestly weren't trying to be sneaky with anything. They're bedrooms, we wanted them used as bedrooms, and we weren't trying to, that's why they were finished as bedrooms and not just left blank at a rough-in stage and then finished at a later date after we got occupancy permit. So yeah, we're open book. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And my last point, I would just ask council to consider option number 3 would be to issue a license subject to conditions. And in my case, I guess the conditions would be that those 2 bedrooms would be strictly locked off for personal use and not have any rental, long-term or short-term. Nobody else is using them except for Jason and I, the homeowners, when we're at the house. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Do we have questions for clarity for the applicant from council? Councillor Steer, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Appreciate your taking the time today to come forward. I have just 2 questions. One, just for clarification. One of the you stated earlier that there may have been some confusion whether it was 3 bedrooms for the vacation rental that would be separate from the dwelling unit below. And is that the juxta of the problem here, is that there was a misunderstanding of that, because it clearly states in the bylaw that a short-term rental is only three dwelling units in the apartment. So it is fairly clear in the bylaw, the intent. So I'm just wondering if that was the cause of the confusion. And the second question is, regardless, you're stating that the 2 bedrooms downstairs would be locked off and only used for your personal use. But I'm wondering, and I may need clarification, I believe you do need to have an on-site manager, an on-site person that is on-site for the vacation rental. And I'm not sure how that you would meet that criteria in this circumstance.
Sure, yeah. Hear me? Sure, so so to the first question, I guess. So the short-term rental is like you come in the front door and you go upstairs and there's a locked door, and then the upstairs alone is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And it's totally locked off and separate from the rest of the house. And it's furnished, it's like ready to go, and it's completely separate, I guess. So in my mind, I guess when we were having the discussions, I just thought 3 bedrooms for what I'm renting out was what I focused on. So that portion of the house is completely separate. So I hope that answers your question. I know it's confusing. And then as far as a long-term, so on the left-hand side of the house, we have a 1-bedroom rental. And that's where you'll see in my my letter from Elijah Penny. She's our long-term tenant, and she's our resident. She keeps an eye on the house for us. So she's our permanent resident on site.
Thank you. Do you have other questions for Ms. Wolf? Yes, Councillor Anderson.
Thanks for appearing and speaking today, Ms. Wolf. My question, I'm just wondering if any of the, if you've looked into any of the suggestions that staff has offered to come into compliance, and if you have any anything to say that the reasons why you couldn't come into compliance with any of those suggestions, or any other thoughts on just coming into compliance with our current bylaws?
Sure. Thank you for the question. This is what keeps me up at night. We have thought about every option possible. So the first option from staff was to move our long-term tenant from the suite that she's in. At the time of those discussions, I don't think she'd even been in there a month. She just moved in. She was super excited. So I did have a discussion with her, but that wasn't, she loved her little 1-bedroom, right? It was perfect for her. And the other option would be to move her over to the lower suite with 2 bedrooms. And it was a different space. It was more than she needed. She didn't want a rent increase or anything, which we wouldn't consider. It just wasn't the right fit for her. She doesn't want a roommate either. And then the other option was to begin renovations. And as you can imagine, we just finished a very lengthy build process and didn't want to get into renovations. And really the renovations that were suggested, I mean, it's kind of like taking out a door and a closet to a couple of bedrooms so that it's just an open concept studio, not 2 bedrooms. Well, to me, that's just kind of lying to say what we're going to use it for, right? Like it doesn't really make sense to go through construction once again to just take down a couple walls and a couple of closets and still have an open space studio that we would use for the same purposes. So I just wanted to be open and go this route instead.
Thank you. I do have a question just about that last comment, and it also ties into another question I had previously, and it's about you just mentioned that the lower suite with 2 bedrooms, your tenant moving into that. Mm-hmm. Do you mean the 2 bedrooms that you have reserved for your family? These are the extra 2 bedrooms in question?
Yes, that's correct. So that would be one option, would be to ask her to move over to our family 2-bedroom side, and then to rent out her 1-bedroom side as a short-term rental. And then our family would use the 3 bedrooms upstairs.
So just to clarify, that would be 3 suites.
Exactly.
A 2-bedroom suite. Oh, I see. 2-bedroom suite, a 3-bedroom up. So the 2 bedrooms downstairs in question are a suite, just to clarify?
Yes, technically.
Okay. Any further questions from council? I would actually have one more question for you, Ms. Wolf, and that is comments in your submission. You included a letter from Mr. Mallory. I believe that's your contractor, and he notes that you had discussions about whether or not to finish the 2-bedroom suites, the 2 bedrooms downstairs, and it appears that went on for a while, but then those bedrooms were, if I'm not mistaken, and please clarify this, were finished due to considerations with cost and rehiring in the future. Can you just maybe comment on that specific letter?
Sure. So yeah, during the process of the build, it's always a little scary to get into these projects, not knowing what costs are going to be like. And so originally we had planned to leave the back 2 bedrooms unfinished, and then finish them at a later date once we had some, rental income coming in and whatnot. But as we started to go through the process and in talking to Jared, it's actually, I think it really came about when we got our kitchen quote. When you start to get certain quotes, it's more cost effective if you already have people on site to just finish it off at the time rather than have them come back months later. It's hard to get them to come back for a smaller job, and it can be more costly because they're not already there doing a big job, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of where that came from. And then when we decided to finish those bedrooms, we just didn't look at the regulations again because we were already in the build, and it's a lot. It's confusing.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Further questions from council before we move on to the next step here? I'm just pulling up our next steps. Okay, I think we've heard from our manager and we've heard from the applicant, and I think we're going to move into decision of council. And so for this, I'm going to turn to Ms. Best to just remind council of what the steps for process in this case.
Thank you. I'm just going to move Ms. Wolf back as an attendee just for the time being. So hang on for one moment here. Thank you. So just as a reminder, we're now moving beyond deliberations of council into decision making, and we're asking that council perform a roll call, which is one by one state whether you are in support of the business license inspector decision to refuse the business license, or you are in opposition, or if you're moving toward any of the other options. And then the reasoning why, and then we will move to the next councillor, a member of council. And once everyone has spoken, then we would ask that you move the resolution that is in.
Excellent, thank you very much. And is council aware of what they're required for this part of the hearing? And for this part, we just want to, as Ms. Best says, whether you support the denial or you oppose the denial, and reasons why if you choose to do so, If you do include reasons why, it is for the benefit of the applicant. Councillor Steer, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Law. I just have a quick question. We're given 4 options, and so it sounds like the 2 options that we're talking about there. The third option was to issue the license subject to conditions. Would that be part of our discussion at this point? You know, if in fact that is the one option that I am thinking about that I would like to proceed with, and then at that point we would obviously have to discuss what those conditions might be, or is at this point it's either a denial or a support of. Maybe a little clarification for me on that.
Thank you for that. Through the mayor, at this point it's a roll call, so no recommendations on the floor. So the recommendation on the floor will be what is discussed at council at that point. So whether you want to choose one of the 4 options, but it should be clear what recommendation should go to the floor after the roll call.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that, Ms. Best and Councillor Steer. So the roll call is whether you are, which one of the options we're in favor of, each councillor, and reasons why, if you choose to include those reasons. That is correct. And then we move a motion. Just to clarify. Okay, perfect. Then I will, I think what I'll do is I'll go from my screen, and I'll just simply go clockwise from my screen. Starting with Councillor Thick, if that's okay.
Thank you. Do I need to state my name then?
No, just your position and reasons why, if you choose to provide them.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate the applicant and the long just the preamble to this discussion, and I just want to say, for my opinion, I uphold the staff decision to refuse the business license for 656 Neilson Place, which is option 2. And the reason I feel that this is important is, you know, we have a lot of people here in this town who are trying to do likewise. That isn't the reason.
Okay, I just want to clarify, Councillor Thick, that to keep it specific to this application, your comments.
Yeah, so I find it very difficult to believe and understand that if you're running a successful business and you're building $1 million home, that you haven't read and understood the bylaw. The rules in this town are the same for all, and so I uphold the staff decision, which is to refuse the business license. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Steer, you're next, and I'm sorry, I'm going clockwise as I see it on my screen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Law. Yeah, I'm looking at option 3, the issue license subject to conditions. I do support Councillor Thick's position in understanding that the rules do apply to everybody. I think there has been conditions presented to the applicant, and if those were to be fulfilled, I think they would meet the requirements that the district has laid out, and I would be supportive of number 3 with very specific conditions.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson, you are next.
I would support upholding the decision of staff. I'm not really, don't quite understand Councillor Steer's position on the conditions. I'm not sure if conditions are meant to be decided on by council or if they've already been presented by staff. But anyways, I'm with upholding the decision, and my reason is mainly to do with I think it would set a precedent that that would be difficult to go back on.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Just to reiterate to council, just keep comments specific to this application. Councillor McMaster, you are next.
Yeah, I support staff's decision to refuse a license. I think it's quite clearly stated And as President Biden said last week, the rules are the rules. And I think it behoves people when they're building or doing anything to understand the rules as soon as they go in. So I'm going to support the refusal of the license. There is nothing to stop them doing some of the options and later coming back and applying for a business license. At this moment, I stand by that we refuse the license.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McMaster. Councillor Challenger, you are next.
Thank you. I'm also in support of upholding staff's decision. And the reason is because I think in the correspondences from last summer, it was made very clear that their plans were not in compliance with the bylaw and that they would need to change if they wanted to operate a short-term rental in the future. And as Duncan said, I'd encourage the owner to, or there's nothing stopping them from making the changes to come into compliance. So I would encourage that.
Thank you. And I also uphold staff's position on this recommendation to refuse a business license. I found staff's actions in this case were proactive and attempted to be helpful and clear. And I think I didn't find the applicant's arguments otherwise very compelling. So having said that, it looks like we have a recommendation. I will read it out. Recommendation that the 2021 business license application for Pipe Dreams short-term rental accommodations located at 656 Neilson Place, Tofino, BC, remain refused and no business be conducted until such time that Pipe Dreams complies with zoning bylaw number 7701997, section 4.3.2, J, and III, or I believe 3, and any other applicable bylaws within the District of Tofino. Do we have a, forget if we need a seconder for this one, seconded by Councillor McMaster. Any further comments or questions? Comments from council? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, and that motion is carried. Thank you very much for attending this hearing, everybody, and thanks to staff, and thank you to the applicant for presenting as well.
I think
we have a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, we do need a motion to adjourn. And
I was going to move adjournment. Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. We have a seconder, seconded by Councillor Challenger. All in favor? Motion's carried.